Hi, I'm Margot Sapel, and welcome to Movie Maker. Our guest today is Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, director and producer of the new Netflix comedy Do Revenge, starring Hawke and Camila Mendes. It's about two crafty teenage girls at a prestigious high school who have both been wronged by different people, and so they decide to exact each other's revenge. Robinson also wrote and directed MTV's Sweet Vicious and Netflix's Someone Great. Plus, she co-wrote Thor: Love and Thunder with Taika Waititi. We're going to talk about all that in the making of Do Revenge, which is currently streaming on Netflix. So without further ado, here's Jennifer Kaytin Robinson. We're very happy to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. I'm super interested to know where you got the idea from Do Revenge. But first, I think I just have to point out, is that the license plate behind you from the car?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. I have like a lot of trinkets like in my whole bookshelf from like I have the like Polaroid from Someone Great. I'm really bad at this right here. I have Ophelia's shoes from Sweet Vicious right there. I have like a lot of stuff and I'm a hoarder. There's also in the film this really amazing moment where Sophie Turner, our wonderful set decorator, Elspeth's mom actually drew the painting, but it looks like she is drawing it. And I have that on my wall right there.
Wow.
That I framed.
Oh my God.
So
I recognize that.
I'm a hoarder of trinkets from film, from my film.
So what inspired Do Revenge? Like, where did the idea start for you?
The idea started I feel like I kind of come at everything of like trying to make my entry into the genres of film that I grew up with, that inspired me as a filmmaker. And so this one was the teen genre, was the high school movie. And something, I really wanted to make something that felt kind of fun and camp and like the movies that I grew up with in the 90s and 2000s. And in kind of interrogating like what those movies are and what they did and why I loved them, they were all reimaginings. And so in talking with Peter Cron, who produced Someone Great, and we were in post on Someone Great and also produced Do Revenge, he had the idea of like, what if you reimagined Hitchcock in high school? And that kind of unlocked it. And then we got to Strangers on a Train. And that was where it was born.
What were like the 90s and 2000s like rom-coms or like teen movies that you drew from for this?
It wasn't really rom-coms. It was all, I mean, I guess some of those are rom-coms, but it was really like that high school movie. It was everything from Clueless and 10 Things to Jawbreaker to Heathers, which I guess is, really more early, but like, I think it's that election was a big thing that I came to in post because the movie has voiceover, but it didn't in the original script. So in post, I was watching things and trying to kind of like find the tone of the movie and and play around in that space. And I watched Election and I was like, oh, what if there was dueling voiceover? So a lot of the kind of entries in that time inspired the film in different ways.
And I also just want to know for people watching or listening to this on the podcast. So before Do Revenge, you did Sweet Vicious, which is also about two teen girls who team up to like take their revenge, but it's in more of like an actual vigilante.
Yeah, it's more of a vigilante. Like this is not a vigilante story. Do Revenge is not a vigilante story. It's not Someone Great is definitely not a vigilante story. Sweet Vicious is a vigilante story. And it's kind of like, but it's similar in that it's kind of like an odd couple pairing. It's a little bit of like oil and water coming together, becoming close friends. Like there are very similar themes between Do Revenge and Sweet Vicious. I feel like they are kind of soul twins.
Yeah, what made you want to explore that particular, like, not only like to like the female friendship dynamic, but also the revenge concept, like in this movie?
I feel like the revenge and vigilante stuff is like a conversation for my therapist on why I keep coming back to these things. I really like telling stories about kind of like rage and trauma, but doing it in like an entertaining way where they're not dramas. Like I really lean towards that Black comedy tone. And so I feel like that is why I keep coming back to this space. And friendship, and especially friendship between women, is, I don't know, it's like that's what I want to watch, so that's what I make. I try and make things that I would want to watch. So I think that that's this is kind of like my sensibility and why I keep coming back to it.
And how did Someone Great and Sweet Vicious kind of prepare you to make Do Revenge?
They both prepared me in different ways. I mean, I think that like everything builds on top of each other. So while I was making Sweet Vicious, I didn't direct, but I was working with an amazing showrunner and kind of like not in the showrunning seat, but definitely like making a lot of creative decisions and working with the actors and creating the world. So on that, in working with Amanda Lasher, who was my showrunner, I learned so much about being on set, and she really taught me how to run a set and be kind of like in that principal role, which gave me the confidence to then go to Paul Feig, Jesse Henderson, and Dan Mignante, who are producing Someone Great, and say, hey, I know I wrote this, but I want to direct this. And Someone Great being my first movie, you know, there's like a learning curve. Like it's just so much of that process was me being like, sure, I definitely know what you're talking about. And then going in the bathroom and like Googling things that people said to me. And so it was like, maybe it's less Googling now. Maybe it's like, I actually know all the terms. But it's also just like, beyond it, like, you know, feeling like I understand the technical stuff better and feel like it's just like you build confidence with each thing that you do. You feel more and more confident in the role of director, in the role of writer, and, you know, kind of in the role of leader.
Yeah, and you also co-wrote Love and Thunder, the Thor movie with Taika Waititi, and I'm wondering there it is right there. If you're listening to this,
there's my chair back. I was there.
Love her. What was that process like? Like, how long does it take to write like a Marvel movie, and how many like rewrites are there? Like, what is that process?
The process was, Taika had been on the project for, I don't even know how long. He had written 4 drafts of the movie, and then I was brought in as he was doing so much. He was kind of in the, he was in the Oscar campaign for JoJo. There was just a lot going on for him. And so Marvel was like, okay, let's give you a support. Let's give you a partner. And so I came in and I was on the movie from that point for a year and a half, like over like, 16 months, like a long time. Went to Australia, was there for production. But it was such a wonderful collaboration. Like it really like, and the difference between obviously writing like Do Revenge or writing Someone Great or writing Sweet Vicious, it's like you're writing for yourself. So it's like you are the final say. And it was really wonderful to be able to kind of like take a different, be in a different seat and really be there to support and realize Taika's vision and be like, okay, what do you want? And like brainstorming and knowing that I was kind of, his like having the ability to collaborate and kind of be on the other side of it was really wonderful.
And how did you kind of position yourself to get that job? Like, how did that happen?
I had pitched to Marvel multiple times on different things, and Kevin is just very specific. He like his brain works in a way that like I'll never try and understand. But he just knows like who should go where, and he was the one I had actually pitched to write Captain Marvel 2. I got the call from my agent and they were like, you did not get Captain Marvel 2, but they asked about Thor. And I was like sobbing about Captain Marvel 2 and like didn't really hear the Thor thing. And then like a week later, I was in an office with Brad Winterbaum and Taika, and I was writing Thor. So Kevin just like, he just knows. And like, and what's funny is Taika and I like, we're obviously an arranged marriage, but like have so, like we just became like a little, like one little unit.
Wow. Are you glad now that you got Thor instead of Captain Marvel?
100%, 1,000%. And that's literally no shade at all to Captain Marvel. I think that again, Kevin really knew where I would shine. And I think Captain Marvel, which is a world that skews a bit more dramatic, like Taika was probably like the best person that I could be paired. I mean, he's the best person I could be paired with in the MCU.
Are you open to like the idea of doing more Marvel movies in the future?
For sure. I mean, I think for me, it's like with my whole career, I try not to really think about like, oh, what do I want in the next 5 years? And I just try and be really open. And for me, it's about not like what will come to me, but like what can I generate? And so like you can't really generate a Marvel movie. They have to come to you. And that's not necessarily like the way that I just personally think about my career. I'm like, okay, I want to make this type of movie and this type of movie and this type of movie. And I focus more on like my generating my own work, and then whatever comes to me is amazing. And I kind of am just along for that ride, whatever it looks like.
I'm also really curious, how does the writing process for a Marvel movie compare to a Netflix movie, which is like a completely different genre?
It's the same. It's just got bigger set pieces. Like I and Taika in Thor and I and everything that I make, it's just story and character and truth. And like, what is the truth in this story? What is the truth of these characters? And really just attacking it in a way where you are emotionally going to resonate with an audience. And like, you can emotionally resonate in a comedy, in a drama. It's just like, what is the emotional truth here? Like, how do we make these people even when they're space Vikings? And how can you pull out like kind of like the humanity so that everyone watching feels like there's a piece of themselves in what they're watching on screen, because that's how you connect. And so when you're looking at things in just like in that way, it's all the same. You're just writing a story.
Do you have any advice for aspiring screenwriters?
Yes, I have two pieces of advice. The first is write. The first is like you have to write. You cannot be scared of the blank page because no one has to see the page that you write if it's bad, but you have to write it. I have three pieces of advice. The second thing is don't self-edit as you're writing. Write, just get a vomit draft out, just get it all out and then rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. But if you start to self-edit like at the beginning and you don't just get something out, it's just murderous. Like don't self-edit. Just like throw it up onto a page and then figure out what works and what doesn't. And then the last thing is like, at every point, you're going to get notes, you're going to talk to people, you're going to tell people about it, whatever. Always come back to the thing, always come back to yourself and remind yourself what you wanted to write and why you wanted to write it. And then look at your thing and be like, is this so different and so changed from all of the different notes that I've gotten that it doesn't feel like that original thing anymore? And that doesn't mean that like the story has to be the same, but it's just like in its core, do you still feel the same way when you read this thing that has been kind of like noted and changed and has evolved, and does it feel like the thing that you were excited to make in the first place?
That's great advice. I think it's all such valuable like things to think about for screenwriters, and even if you are an experienced screenwriter. And also, as someone who, I mean, you juggled three jobs on this movie on Do Revenge. How do you handle, like, do you compartmentalize being a producer, director? I guess the writing part's over by the time.
Oh no, we were writing throughout the entire
Wow, really?
production. Oh yeah. I think that no, because it's all a little bit the same job. Like there's a piece of each. It's like I don't feel like I take off a writer hat and put on director hat, take off a director hat, put on a producer hat. I feel like it's just like to me, it's all under the umbrella of filmmaker and just like looking at this thing and wanting it to be the best version and wanting to be collaborative and wanting to create a space where everyone working on the film feels like they have the license to be as creative as they possibly want to be, to excel, to make mistakes, to just like all of that. So for me, I don't really think about like the different hats. I think about like, okay, like what needs to be done in this moment to get this done, if that makes sense. It's less about like, oh, I need to be a producer now, or I need to be a writer now. I feel like it's like, so ever changing that I never really think about what I'm doing as I'm doing it.
Yeah, this movie was so gorgeous too. I mean, it looks like it had a really big budget. I mean, was it a large budget? Because it
I
looks
don't know if I'm allowed to say the budget. It was not large. It was not small. It was not large. Like is how I'll say it. Like it. I think Brian Burgoyne is amazing and really shot the shit out of it. But also Hillary Gertler and production designer and Alana Morris had the costume designer, and I like just really ran at creating Girl World. It was very much like we really wanted this movie to feel like a piece of candy, like this beautiful kind of, I feel like you think about world building and you think Thor, and there was a lot of world building that went into Do Revenge. And I think that contributes to why it feels bigger than it probably, you would probably be surprised by the budget, because I do think it feels bigger than it is.
Yeah, the costumes, like the uniform costumes, reminded me of Bo Batten's Academy from Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, with the capes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's so Fleur Delacour.
Is it Bo Batten or Bo Baton?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I feel like I could be just like repeating like just parroting like Hagrid's pronunciation of.
I wonder which, because I say Bobaton and now I'm like, have I been saying the wrong thing? We'll never know. I don't think we should ever find out. I think we should both just move through life and wonder if we're saying this wrong forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we should interrogate this. I think it's just more, it'll just be like a light twinge of anxiety about like if we said this thing from Harry Potter wrong. Just like to keep us on our toes forever.
Yeah, I agree. And the color palette in this movie was so beautiful too. It was like, were you going for like that pastel, like kind of wash over everything?
Yeah, I think that, it was really important to me to not just look at this like costumes and production design and lenses, but to look at everything like everything in a frame. Like it was not about creating a look, it was not about creating a room, it was about creating a frame. And so everything from the wall color needed to be complementary to the costumes, needed to be complementary to the floor, needed to be complementary to the chairs. And then in looking at all of that, like how do we shoot it? We used a lot of 40mm lenses, which are what Wes Anderson uses. We shot the movie on anamorphic lenses because that kind of makes the colors pop. But I didn't want to shoot the movie. And Brian, the DP, kind of brought me these anamorphic lenses that aren't vintage lenses. So it doesn't warp it too much and doesn't give it that kind of like, there's like almost like a graininess to some old anamorphic lenses, but these we like very specifically chose new ones so that it would feel really rich without necessarily feeling like too warped or grainy. And I think all of those things contributed to creating the look of the film, but it was a lot of meetings where we pinned all of the production design elements, all of the costume elements up on a bulletin board, like kind of sequence by sequence, so that we could kind of see the palette evolve and make sure that everything felt like it was in conversation with each other throughout the film.
I'm also really curious, like, where did you film this? The school and like their
Atlanta.
Really?
Yes, the school. Well, Atlanta and Miami. There's definitely like Max's house is in Miami. The beach is Miami. They're walking on Ocean Drive. That is Ocean Drive. But the school is in Atlanta. It's called Oglethorpe. It's actually a college. Because we moved 6 weeks before production, we moved the entire movie. It was supposed to be LA. 6 weeks before production, we moved the entire movie to Atlanta so that Maya Hawke could remain in the film and shoot our movie and Stranger Things season 4 at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was she going back and forth? Like,
yeah. And if you've watched, I assume because everyone in the world has watched this Stranger Things season 4, you know that it was like just a lot of like really breezy light work that she was doing over there. Just really easy scenes where she just had to like fight with bats like through the night. And then she would come, she said this, so I'm going to steal this from her, but she went from bats to bitches is what she said. I'm fully stealing that line from her. But yeah, so we shot it in Atlanta, but it was a lot of Hillary Gertler, again, we used to say put a palm on it. So it was bringing in greens. The fountain is something that she built and designed. I was really obsessed with having a fountain for the popular kids to sit at as an homage to Scream. So when we got to this college and there wasn't a fountain, I just kind of was like, can we build one? And she did.
How did you like decide on the girl duo with Maya Hawke and Camila Mendes?
It was like, a lot of people auditioned. I am not because I don't think people can act, period. It's because I am very much like kind of like an instinctual guttural director, and that I like just need to kind of see it. And then I'm like, yes, that makes the most sense. Like this makes sense. And like, this is like, it like comes to life for me. So everyone did audition, and the minute within seconds of Cami and Maya opening their mouths and saying any of these lines, I was like, that's it. I just knew immediately. And I also knew it wasn't just about them being perfect for the parts. I just felt very strongly that they were like, them together was also the right combination.
Yeah, I feel like they had really good back and forth and very like their dialogue. Sometimes in those type of like teen movies, the dialogue can sound cheesy, but in this one it didn't. It was very like, I don't know. It seemed like real words people would say.
Thank you. I think that that's something that's very important to me, both as a writer and a director, is to make is so that it's like, I wanted it to be campy. I wanted it to be fun. I never wanted it to feel like it was taking you out of the language was taking you out of the movie. And Celeste Ballard, who co-wrote the script with me, did such a beautiful job of like really, she wrote the first several drafts and like did such a beautiful job of like, you know, bringing Eleanor and Drea to life on the page that made them feel both kind of like heightened and fantastical, but also like incredibly lived in and real.
Yes, I definitely felt like that too. And we have to talk about Austin Abrams because he was such an incredible, like rich, preppy, terrible.
He's wonderful. He's
Yeah.
wonderful. He was another one that like the second I saw the tape, and I don't know that he was what Netflix was envisioning, because I think that like in their mind, Max was kind of more of the Jacob Elordi type, like a jock. I think they, and like I never, we like Celeste and I, like I never, we were never wrote Max as a jock. Like that was never what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be like a Timothy Chalamet, Harry Styles, like gender fluid, like beta monster. And so
Yes.
to me, there is just like Austin was just so perfect. And the thing about Austin that is so fantastic is like he is the nicest, sweetest boy. Like he is so much closer to Ethan from Euphoria than Max, which is, I mean, a very good thing. But it was funny because it's like I think it's so against what he's done before and his type and who he is, and so I, you know, and that to me is beyond the fact that he's just a genius. I genuinely think he's like one of the best actors in his generation. It was really exciting to be able to bring someone into this that was going to show a completely different side of themselves.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I grew up in Rhode Island and I was sometimes around like the very like old money circles in Newport.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you went with a character like him instead of a jock because it's so much more realistic to the way
Yeah.
like those societies and like teen circles actually are. Like that is exactly what that type of high school boy looks like. Like he's
Yes,
really real. He's a real person.
I agree. I agree. And I think that it's also just like I think it's what is true to the world. Like it's like I feel like jocks will always have a place, but I feel like jocks were almost like um in the teen movie space, it was like always this like very the same type of guy. And I'm like, does that guy even like actually exist?
They don't.
Like, I don't know that I've never met like that specific guy. It feels very much like a movie trope. And so something that I really wanted to kind of upend in this film is taking those characters, the like kind of, you know, archetypes that we see in the teen movies and try and subvert them in, you know, different ways.
I really appreciate that because something that always bothers me so much in classic teen movies is like how realistic or how unrealistic it seems. Like, so, like I don't know, something about like the classic like push you into a locker like high school bully. It just
Yeah.
doesn't ever feel real. Like the meanness is so much more subtle than that.
Yeah.
And
It's
I,
smarter too. I
yeah,
find that there's like it's not that people are it's not that these movies had been written and the characters aren't smart, because I think honestly all of the films that we reference, Cruel Intentions being like kind of the biggest that I didn't mention earlier, but those like the villains in that movie are so smart and conniving and manipulative, and like, but Ryan Felipe doesn't feel like he feels like so like he's just so interesting, and like that to me was Max. It was finding that character that's like has sex appeal and feels like, you know, like you're like very interested in him, but that has like mystery to him and kind of an intrigue to him.
yeah.
And just feels really smart. I really wanted all the characters to feel like they had agency in honestly kind of the worst ways in this film, but they had that.
Yeah, so tell me more about Maya's character and kind of the essence of her and like what inspired her.
Yeah, Eleanor's such a fun character because I think there are so many sides of Maya that I think, you know, you start the movie and you think you understand this character, and she kind of like changes and evolves as the story goes in this like really beautiful, delicious way. And Maya is so wonderful in that she like so many of my favorite Eleanor lines she wrote. Bigosaurus Rex is a Maya Hawke original. I like my emotional support pets, thick-skinned and cold-blooded, Maya Hawke original. She came to the character wanting to make her so fully formed and so lived in. And I think she elevated what was already there to a degree that it is just, it is I use the word weird in like with the most love I could use it. Like she made Eleanor like this really perfect weirdo.
She is a perfect weirdo.
She's a perfect weirdo because she's like, it's like specific, but also like you feel like you know this person. And then she does, and I feel like then there are like these like nuances and specificities that are just like so Eleanor.
It's true. Also, okay, how did Sophie Turner come to be in this movie? Because it was such a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted that character who kind of comes back in a really fun, surprising way in the break into the third act of the movie. I knew I wanted to stunt cast that. I knew like you want them to be recognizable and kind of memorable, so that when they do come back, like it feels like you're like, oh, I know who this person is, and you're with them. And it was such a big, fun, comedic scene. I wanted someone that could do it. To be honest, I wanted someone that could like really like eat the scenery. And we all talked about like I'm obsessed with Sophie. I loved her, and that's the tea videos. Like I was like, I think Sophie Turner's a comedic genius, and it's completely untapped. And so she was the person that we thought of, and she said yes. I like sat there and like agonized over like the what I was sending her and how many times she would say, "Can I say the C word?"
Yeah, go ahead.
How many times she would say the word cunt and screaming at Cami Mendes. But you know, for me, I was just like, there's no one I'd rather watch scream cunt into Cami Mendes's face than Sophie Turner. And she said yes. I'm really
It's true.
grateful.
It's true. She was such a delight. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us about this movie. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
It's so like beautiful and refreshing and colorful and surprising in so many wonderful ways.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited for the world to see it. I think, you know, the one thing that I will leave you with, and then I will leave everybody with that is going to go off and watch the film, is that it's meant to be kind of camp and fun, and it is not a slice of life. It is not in any way supposed to be a real life teenager's experience. And so I hope that we can, you know, bring back those movies that are kind of elevated and heightened and like do build a world that doesn't live in space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.